The Global Terrorism Index 2019 ranked Nigeria as the third worst country prone to terrorism in the world. When you look at the worsening insecurity in the country, it's not surprising that we have this ranking. My name is Zainab Sanni, and I welcome you to this episode of Development Issues, where we take a look at how insecurity has ravaged virtually every region in Nigeria and government's response to it, including the way forward. Joining me to have this conversation is Professor Tajudeen Sanni. He is a professor of industrial and peace education. He is also the director, Institute for Peace and Strategic Studies, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode.
Thank you for having me.
Now, there's been so much insecurity in Nigeria lately in every region, from kidnapping to banditry, and also even Boko Haram. You know, we hear that they are still kidnapping people, they are still bombing here and there, and things like that. And one thing that has become the response is that we are beginning to see this ethnic divide, where those in the south and west are saying that government is being partial or is not taking a very strong approach to addressing insecurity issues because it's being perpetrated by kinsmen. What would you say is the possible kickback effect of this? What do you see happening in the next couple of months and days as a result of this stance that people are now taking?
Yeah, thank you so much. You see, let me first let you understand that insecurity at this moment is a global phenomenon.
Okay.
It happens everywhere. The difference between one location and the other is that whereas those other places have institutions and structures in place to address this insecurity, our own institutions are severely weak or in many instances non-existent. And as a result of that, this insecurity continues to have a very strong impact on us. I tell you that the Global Terrorism Index had been ranking us number 3. In fact, the 2016 we were ranked number 4. But when you come to 2017, 2018, 2019, we have consistently been occupying the 3rd position. And that has been very significant for us to think about how the issue of governance and the address of insecurity is going on. So it's not that this insecurity had not been around us, but what has been failing is government response, like you rightly said. Government response has been failing, and individuals are now beginning to have what we could call erosion of sovereignty, whereby as a result of so much information that is now available to citizens within the country, they are beginning to develop more loyalty, higher loyalty towards their ethnic groups, towards their religious groups than they have to government. And this is a failure of government. The people are already feeling that government is responsible for what is happening around them. They have ethnicized insecurity. They have created 2 tribes. The tribe of we and them. So all these things is actually making the issue of insecurity to grow in a way that we have not even thought of. If anyone told us from 10, 15, 20 years ago that you come to Nigeria where people will unleash this level of violence that we see to the point that they are attacking themselves, killing and maiming people, burning people, and even eating flesh of people in the public, you will say that things like that would never happen in Nigeria. So it is telling you that the issue is that of governance, and it is and all of the people are failed.
And we are headed towards a very dangerous cliff.
Very serious one, because what we are heading towards is rebellion. Because wherever, anywhere, any situation where injustice becomes law, rebellion becomes a duty. Where leadership fails, then the rule of the thumb, everybody now standing up to defend itself. Many Sunday goals will be raised in different communities. People will become so much interested in protecting and defending themselves because government has on many occasions giving the impression to people that they are helpless. And if you are living in a house, you have a parent that's supposed to provide security for you, and you see your parent being helpless, instead of dying cheaply, you are going to take some steps, and that is what is happening now.
And I think that's already happening. It's not about it's going to happen, because just this morning I was watching a video where people were booing at those of northern extraction, both Hausas and Fulani, in Ibadan here, and telling them to go, they have come and enslaved us here, you people should pack your load. And you could see the Hausas in their numbers packing their loads and trying to leave the area, which is quite saddening when you think about it, because I want to believe that that is not the appropriate response.
No, reprisal attack is a very imminent thing. If you look at the way in which different ethnic groups work in this country, we are sort of mobile people. People move from one location to the other to go and get themselves engaged in the various businesses. As a result of that, once you have this type of attack coming around here, it means you are already endangering the lives of those who are in those other places, because even the issuance of ultimatum didn't start from here. It started some months back when some northern youths came together to issue ultimatum to people from certain parts of the country and said that they should leave their places. It's a failure of government, because we have a law that says that everyone is free to live without any hindrance, let or hindrance, in any part of the nation. And so if that exists, so it shows that government should make it possible for people to be able to enjoy such freedom. So a situation whereby people now take positions to say that we and them, it's becoming very dangerous for us. And look at Nigeria. We have more than 350 ethnic groups. So by the time this thing happens, ours is going to be a very serious issue, because it is different from the Rwandan thing where you have the Hutus and the Tutsis and all those things. By the time you see these cleavages coming up and the people standing up at arms against each other, then it's going to be a very serious issue for government.
You know, let's now come to government's response, owning on it a little bit, because I know that for the 2021 budget, about 120 ministries and development agencies, rather, they earmarked about 24 billion naira for security votes. This is aside the monthly allowance of security votes to governors in all the states of the country that is usually undisclosed. Then when you look at the situation of things in many police stations and in many barracks, you are forced to think there isn't a neglect of this very important sector of the society, responsible in part for the insecurity issues that we're having. But how do you now balance it with the fact that we have so much money allocated to security?
Corruption. We are living in a very corrupt society. Those allocations, if you had allocated the money for social services, whereas people are able to get jobs, people are able to get their needs being met, then you have very little to allocate to security. But the fact is that you are now trying to treat the symptoms instead of looking at the root causes of what you have as a problem that you have. So all these things, in fact, most of these security votes are votes that are usually unaccounted for. So they are very serious avenues for leakages for these chief executives, for them to go and do whatever they like. So even where there are no crises, they are going to create a crisis so that they can continue to put more money as security votes for things like that to be able to happen. So it's just like when you are looking at a tree, it's just like the conflict tree theory that we have. If you divide a tree into 3 sections, you have the root, you have the stem, and then the branches. If you cut the branches of a tree, after the next rainfall, the tree can sprout again. If you cut the stem, after the next rainfall, the tree can grow again. But if you remove the roots, then it means you have killed the tree. But when you are approaching the tree, what do you see? You see only the stem and the branches. The roots are usually buried. So you really need some level of analysis, some level of technicalities of knowledge and responsiveness for you to be able to understand this. So by the time you continue to say that you are allocating money for security votes and all those things, you are actually treating the stems and the branches, leaving the roots, and the conflict will continue to fester.
Now, talking about understanding the root cause, you work in the academia, and I'm sure you've had a lot of engagements. In fact, your institute is very, very relevant to what we're talking about. What has been your engagement with government so far? Have there been efforts, targeted at understanding the root cause?
I can tell you that because of the kind of things that we do here, if you go outside there, I have about 40 very senior military officers receiving instructions on strategic studies here, with colleagues sharing with them, and they share their experience on the field with us. I have served on the Presidential Committee for the processing of detainees of Boko Haram in 2017-2018. One of my colleagues here was one of those that drafted the defense policy for the nation. I am engaged under the sponsorship of German Foreign Office on security sector reform, working in several regions of the country. So, and we have had the opportunity in engagement with the Army Resource Center, with the Defense College, with the Ministry of Defense, and all these things, talking to them about these issues.
But do they listen
one
to
of
your
these
reports?
things that the structures are not there. I can tell you one of the major problem here is that we have different agencies addressing insecurity in different forms in their cocoons. Agencies are not actually working together, and the kind of insecurity we have now, there is no particular security agency that can handle it. In fact, the role of the citizens in security provision is becoming more and more important, more and more severe. But nowadays, you now see that different agencies, Office of the National Security Advisor is supposed to be the coordinating office for security agencies, but they are not working together. In fact, even the laws, the legislations that we have are so overlapping, some of them so contradicting.
So we have ambiguity and then a lack of collaboration.
So many of those things are there. No coordination, no collaboration, and no cooperation. So as a result of that, you see different agencies working on its own, and what do you get? You don't get the correct results to be able to do that. Look at the police. We have just one single police force manning the whole 200 million Nigerians. So if you send a police officer from Zamfara to come and police Akinyele, what does he know? He probably does not know anything.
Are you saying state policing is the way forward?
No. What I'm saying is that whether it is state policing, whether it is community policing, what I'm saying is that policing should be an all of the people affair, not an exclusive role of government that will just sit down from Abuja and continue to dish out instructions to what is happening here. We have Amateku in the southwest here. Amateku is supposed to be an intelligence unit that is very close to the grassroots, that is providing opportunities and information to the national police for them to be able to work. But instead of working together, you see them contradicting and working against each other. So you have all these things going on. Even the National Assembly that is dishing out the laws, correcting this, they bring out laws that contradict each other. And the different agencies don't even know the extent of the laws of the other agencies. All these things we have been able to find out through research, that agencies don't even understand each other. So whenever there is anything like resources that they are good, you see them working, struggling, everybody trying to get the resources to come towards him. They don't even understand what the others are. There was even a capacity building program which I was doing, and I asked an army lieutenant, he should name his equivalent in the police. He told me he has no equivalent in the police. That is the extent to which he knows. So if you have all these kind of ways in which we are operating, it means that citizens are helpless. Citizens are going to find ways for themselves. So these are the things that we have. In fact, state efforts, when the NSAS protest came, and the police had to withdraw from the streets and everything is going, many states were left without any security. The only thing you have here is Operation Burst, which was the creation of the state. But in many places, states are not even doing anything.
These are quite insightful, comments that you are making into the state of security in Nigeria. But I would like us to talk about something. There's been concerns about government's posturing, body language in relation to insecurity. there are allegations that government has been very mild, you know, or has taken a lukewarm stance in addressing the farmer-herdsmen conflicts, particularly favoring herdsmen. As someone with more insight, or someone who has worked on the space, would you agree with that assertion?
Not completely. I cannot, because I had the opportunity at one time to be part of those that worked on the crisis that happened around the Mambila Plateau, when there was a crisis between the people there and the herdsmen. Okay. And I knew that there were a lot of devastation and losses that the herdsmen actually suffered. We also just completed a study that was sponsored by Search for Common Grants organization here, where we are talking about the border security issues on farmer-herder conflict. And then we were able to even find out that even some of these herders are also suffering from attacks from some of these Moredas that come from other countries that we see that is happening there. But because governance is not sincere, because people don't know, you know, people will always seek for information. When information is not available, the bits that they get, they are going to make it up for you, and they're going to add all the ones that you think. So what is happening now is being caused by government because we do not have a system and a structure that is working in place. If this was there, there would be no need or no reason for people to think that government was trying to and then even some of those in governance. Look at the governor of the state coming to justify that herdsmen were legitimate in carrying out AK-47 because they have been attacked in the bushes. So what it means is that farmers here can also carry AK-47 to prevent herdsmen from coming to their farm to do these things. So you can also see that this is an issue of a deficit in governance, that the kinds of people that we have leading us and the way in which our politics are, the way in which our politics are going, and you know the implication of this. This sends a kind of messages around, because Nigeria is a young populated country. You understand what I'm saying? We are sending a kind of message to our young people to tell them that this is the way to go. And as a result of that, all these things will continue to escalate. So government, once you fail in making people to see you as being positive in your governance, you give room for people to insinuate many things. And once they continue to insinuate it, they continue to pass the information. If you go to newspaper stands on a daily basis and look at the amount of information that is being shared in that particular place, in those days, those that were ruling, they didn't allow for that. There were televisions, radios in homes that people get first-hand information from government. But now we have left our people to go in search of information here and there. And whatever form of information you get is what they are going to use.
Now, let's move away from that. I would like to come to media coverage of conflicts in Nigeria so far. I read the recent reports where the person did a research and found out that at the time Chibok girls were kidnapped, the terrorists had gone to their school to raid for provisions. And when they finished raiding, they didn't know what to do with the girls, so they were forced to carry them. It wasn't as though they went there particularly to kidnap the girls, but government media's reportage afterwards sounded like it was because Boko Haram was against girls' education that they kidnapped those girls. And afterwards, there was so much report about terrorist activities in the north, which has led to, you know, some of the girls released said that whenever they saw media reports or themselves in media, the terrorists used to be happy because they were getting coverage. What would you say, what's your stand in the way media has managed to cover conflicts in Nigeria so far?
One of the most neglected industry, which is so important to governance, is the media industry. You know, this is an industry where you need to get well-educated, well-trained people. The majority of these newspaper houses just recruit young graduates without jobs, give them identity cards, and just send them to the field to go and fend for themselves. You see people giving them money to tell them to make any form of reports against anyone and all those things. Media reportage has actually contributed to conflict escalation in this country. The way in which they report this thing. In fact, look at, you will see our own media people here reporting and showing Nigerian armed forces, the military, being devastated by the terrorists. And they are showing this for the whole world to look at. You will never see an American soldier being presented in that way. Once you do that, you are already giving power or energy to the terrorists to say that after all, yes, we are winning. People are getting this. Then, let me give you an example. Sometimes ago, many years back, there was a crisis in Ota, in Ogun State, whereby a particular woman, a prostitute, was working in the night, on a night that they had a festival they call Oro. Okay. Oro, where a woman should not come out. If Oro had seen the daughter of the king of that town, at the time they came out, they would probably have killed her too. But they saw this woman out, and in the Yoruba adage is that the moment a woman sees Oro, the woman will die. But when the media was going to report it, they reported that an Hausa woman was killed by some cultural people, and it led to reprisal attacks. You see, so whatever the media reports actually has a way of so the media need to actually cooperate with those that are fighting this terrorism war in order for them to be able to win. I just read a report by Kadare Ahmed recently where she was talking about how the media has actually contributed to the escalation of things. I saw media reporting a policeman being roasted, and people were eating this policeman. And what is not helping the situation is the new media.
Yeah,
social media. So those who are not anything, they just start a blog and then they continue to send any form of information out and all those things. So the way in which we have been doing this, I went on a visitors program to Berlin in Germany. I went with one of the senior reporters of AIT, and then we went to the media and they told us some of these ethics in their profession. But how do you keep the ethics here when in actual fact most of the people that are in the industry are trying to find the ways of surviving?
And also the structure doesn't even support.
Does not even support people to grow in this.
I really wish that we had more time for this conversation because this is quite robust and we have a lot to say. But just before we round up, I like that as you have spoken so far, you've hinted at solutions here and there. I would like you to now bring it all together and just, simply let us, what is the way forward if Nigeria must tackle insecurity?
Yes. Insecurity is a global phenomenon. The kind of insecurity that we have now is so intertwined, so interwoven that it requires the activities of various agencies working together to be able to address this insecurity, including the role of the citizens. Okay? So it means that everyone, in everything that we are doing, we need to take this security, which is the most important business of government, has been something that is key in all these things that we are doing. So all developmental efforts, all institutions, in some countries, they even give security training to their young people to be able to come. So insecurity should be taken in a way in which institutions that are supposed to address it are actually created and made to be interwoven and taken to the roots, because the most important people for insecurity are the community people themselves. So I am looking at a situation whereby every state has a structure in place that involves all the strata of the society. It's supposed to be an all of the people affair. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? So, and as we are doing it, we are also supposed to fight some of those things that are actually creating the insecurity. No jobs. Institutions of higher learning are under lock and key most of the time. No social services. If you do not provide all these root causes, you will continue to fight insecurity for till this thing comes.
I like that we should end on that note.
Yes. So I think it's important for you to know that you must address the issue that actually have carried people to this insecurity in the first instance. Providing good leadership for people, good governance, providing social security, addressing the basic needs of the citizenry, the way you fight insecurity.
Thank you so much. It's been such a delight having this conversation with you, Professor Akonje. And that is it on this episode of Development Issues. Join us again next time.